Looks like you've been missing a lot of work lately.
I wouldn't say I've been missing it, Bob.
What would you say you do here?
God damn it. Bob, we love playing here tonight. My brother's ready.
It helps if you think of it as a game, Bob. Every game has a winner and a loser.
You must possess strength to inflict pain, Bob.
Welcome to the TwoBobsCast. We are an A to Z rock and metal podcast going
Sing it for me, heard.
A to Z, covering all your favorite and least favorite bands, our favorite and maybe not so favorite sometime bands, going from A to Z. We are in letter C, and we'll talk about that in a second here. But I am here with my partner, Mr. H. What's up, Mr. H? How you been?
I've been good, man. I've been good. I've just been waiting for you to get back.
I know, man.
Do more podcasts. You get up and go on vacation, and
I'm sitting on the beach, like, man, I wish I could do a podcast right now. You know,
I'm just jealous. I mean, that's all there is to it.
It's fair.
Yeah,
dude, I am rested.
Welcome back.
Thank you so much, man. I'm rested, well recovered. It's nice, you know. And I was lucky enough to be with my family, and they were pretty cool and pretty chill. So I did a lot of sitting on the beach and a lot of sitting in the pool and let the kids run around. And I just sat and listened to music and, you know, took it easy, recharged the batteries, and just feel so much better logging into work today, knowing I'm not exhausted and all that stuff. So it served its purpose. I had fun and I'm well rested and I'm ready to do some music. So
awesome.
Who do we got today, Mr. H?
Today, we have podcast number 45. We are on the letter C in the alphabet and season 2. And today, we are doing Corrosion of Conformity. It's our second C band. We did Coheed and Cambria. If you want to go back and listen to that, which quite a few people have, more than I thought. So that's pretty cool. But this band was founded in 1982. Most people, a lot of people, hadn't really heard of them until the 90s, but they were founded in 1982 in Raleigh, North Carolina by Mike Dean, who played bass and sang, and Woody Weatherman, who plays guitar, and Reed Mullen, who plays drums. And they had a singer at the time named Benji Shelton. They were influenced by, heavy metal and hardcore groups, Black Sabbath, Iron Maiden, Scorpions, Judas Priest, but also Black Flag, Bad Brains, Circle Jerks, Minor Threat, Discharge, among others. Which that's the direction that they kind of went on their first album. Benji Shelton quit the band in 1982, and they eventually found Eric Ike. I think it's Ike. It's Eycke. I believe it's Ike, to sing for their first album. So the first album, we'll get right into it, came out in 1984 on April 15th. Called Eye for an Eye. 20 songs? I mean,
yeah.
I'm not really sure how many songs this album has. Like, there's one version that has 20. There's a remixed, remastered, or re-released that has like 42 songs on it or some crap. So, yeah, I think it's 20 songs, but
yeah,
it's definitely weird, hardcore. Not weird. I mean, I guess for the time, it's weird. I don't know why I called it weird. It's just a different style of music that I don't really care for that much. So it's not really necessarily weird, especially for 1984. But definitely a collection of, it's kind of crossover, hardcore, sort of thrashy, but at this point still hardcore punk type stuff. Really short songs and kind of clips in there. So a lot of the songs being like a minute and a half, or something like that. So it's definitely different. So they also kind of were a bit of an influence on some of the thrash bands around at the time. So what they were doing apparently was pretty fresh for nobody else was doing this kind of thing. So But I don't really care for much of this first album. It's totally not my thing, though. I mean, I'm sure it's good for what it is. But we got songs that minute 18, minute 19, minute 13, minute 50, minute 27. I think the longest one is 2:56, which is a remake of the Green Manalishi.
Actually, song one is 3:29.
Oh, my bad. Tell me the first song, 3:29. That's that one.
That's the epic on this album.
The epic. That's the progressive hardcore punk sound.
Yeah,
awesome. So my favorites here, again, this sounds like crap too. It's 1984. It's their first album. It was very loosely produced on the No Core Toxic Shock label and produced by the band. So, and recorded at Hummingbird Sound Studios in apparently Raleigh. So, I don't really have a producer. It doesn't really matter. I don't think they really, other than the band. So, yeah, the next album too, it just doesn't sound very good. So you can tell there wasn't really a professional producer involved. Skippers, like I said, really nothing favorite here. There's pieces of it here and there that I like. Some slower parts of Tell Me, for example. There's a couple moments in there where I'm like, oh, okay. But I did listen to all of it. But Skippers for me is pretty much all of it. I won't come back to this. Mostly don't like it except for a couple parts. This we're doing 10 albums. However, I did put some notes in here about Technocracy, which is their
EP
third album, but it's an EP. I didn't rank it though, or really rate it, but I do have some comments because that's the first time I heard of them. So I wanted to just make a couple mentions of that one. But Eye for an Eye, I have for albums ranking, I have this as a D, and I have this at number 10. What did you think of Eye for an Eye? Was it for an ear for you?
Yeah, I pretty much felt exactly like how you did, but I'm not shocked with that because I think we're both kind of metalheads. We like metal, which they get to, but right now they're not there. This is very, when you say that they had those, those different heavy metal influences, none of that really comes through here. It does later, obviously, but
for sure.
This is all punk, hardcore punk. It's just not my thing, just like yours. I've seen a lot of people online with this. They really like this album. So I'm not going to say it's bad, but I'm with you. It's just not the kind of music I listen to. It was just kind of on in the background. There was really nothing that really stuck out for me. I did think it was pretty cool. They did that Fleetwood Mac cover, the Green Manalishi. I thought was cool. Because I have heard that song before. It's an older single of theirs. So,
and redone by Judas Priest, more famously than
correct
Corrosion of Conformity.
But it was a cool little take on it. I like when bands completely make it their own. Anybody could go in there and replay it like the original band did. There's something to be said
on the remakes next week. For the band we're going to do next week, which I will not divulge yet, but man, was there some good covers in there. Holy crap, that I didn't even realize. But anyway, not so much here, but
yeah. But again, it was okay. It was okay for a cover. Not really anything else stood out to me. It's just when I heard that song, it stood out because I was like, hey, that sounds familiar. And I looked, I was like, that's why that sounds familiar. Nothing else really caught my ear on Eye for an Eye. I'm with you. Number 10, also a D. Just not my style of music, which it really could have done anything, and I wouldn't have really been into it. So,
not a D because it's a crap album, but a D for me meaning I dislike it.
Yes.
That's the D for me. Is that it's just not my thing.
Yeah, totally agree. At least I would look for good production or good guitar solos. Just none of that's here. It's just not. It's not that kind of music. So. I'm with you. I won't really come back to it probably ever. And you kind of gave me a heads up on it, but I am not a huge Corrosion of Conformity fan. So I didn't know that Pepper Keenan, which you haven't talked about yet, I did not know he wasn't in the band at this point. And I didn't know they were a band at this point. I thought, like you said, it was 90s is when they started. So to me, this was like, I had no clue that they were going to sound like this, that it was going to be like this at all. So I was more taken back. Like I had to look, is this the right Corrosion of Conformity? But that was really
totally underground at the, even at the time. I mean, I was 12, 13, around this time. So my friends hadn't even heard of, these
Sure.
guys, and they had heard, of other bands that people hadn't heard of, because they were reading magazines all the time and whatever. But these guys, totally underground. It's almost like the only people that heard of these guys then were other musicians.
Right.
It seems like. So
Yeah, makes sense. So yeah, number 10, D for me. Just right with you.
all right. So on to Animosity, which was their second album. Came out October 25th, 1985. 10 songs on this one. It's a little more straightforward. A little bit longer songs here. There's a couple shorter ones, but a little bit long songs. Couldn't find any producer info again. No matter. It doesn't really sound that good either. So, cover artwork, though, incidentally, done by Pusshead of early Metallica artwork fame. If you are a Metallica fan, you're definitely familiar with Pusshead. So,
Yep.
he did the album cover. And if you look at the album cover, you're like, yep, totally see that. So,
Yep.
I mean, he has his own style for sure. And that's definitely him. With Eric Ike's departure soon after Eye for an Eye, they became a trio at this time, and Mike Dean took over the full-time vocal duties here. Not much of a change, though. It's definitely a different band back then than what they'd become later. Basically, it's still crossover punk thrash band on this album. A little more thrash, though, not a little more song structure than just the crazy punk, in and out in a minute song. So a little bit more stuff here, but still just not my thing. There's a lot of punk and hardcore in there. But still an underground band, but an album that many bands found influential and liked. I was reading that, half of these songs have been covered by different bands throughout the years: Metallica, Monster Voodoo Machine, Mr. Bungle, All Out War, etc. Like there's just been a lot of cover. If you just look on Wikipedia down at the bottom there, it's the covers is as long a write-up as the actual track listing. So a lot of bands have covered this. So again, this is a kind of a band's band at the time. They were doing some kind of different stuff that really wasn't for everybody, but some of these other, thrash bands and musicians out there were taking notice of this stuff. So I do have a couple on here that I didn't mind too much. Holier and Positive Outlook. Holier was redone by Monster Voodoo Machine and also Metallica. And I want to say, did anybody redo Positive Outlook? I don't think so. But I didn't mind Positive Outlook. That's the fifth song. Holier is the fourth song. So the fourth and fifth songs were okay. But most of it's still skipper for me, especially Prayer. Prayer is the sixth song, and it really kind of went off a cliff there. I didn't like that one at all. Again, it's just not my thing. So it's D plus here. This is number 9. So these are the bottom two for me, and it's all upward from here for Corrosion for me. So D plus, number 9 for Animosity. What did you think of Animosity?
Yeah, once again, we do this to each other. Like, hey, you're reading off my paper. Like, basically the same exact thing here. There's a sizable gap, I would say, between the first record and this record, because I do agree with you. A little more of the thrash comes through here than the hardcore punk, and that's more my thing. I get into some thrash. Like, obviously we've done some thrash bands on this podcast before. We both really like Slayer, Testament.
Bands from the time, thrash bands from the time,
and right about this time is when Slayer was putting out their first couple albums, and so definitely this
Testament,
is when
Anthrax.
Yep, absolutely. So this is better, but again, to me, this isn't something I'll come back. Obviously, this isn't the best thrash. I know,
right?
Like you said, bands. This is a band's band, not so much me. When I want to listen to thrash, I'm just going to put on Raining Blood or something like that. That's my kind of thrash. Not so much this, but again, a sizable difference from the first album to this album. It's much shorter, even though the songs are a little bit longer at times. I did like some moments here. The opening track, Lost for Words, actually got into a few of the grooves there. I thought it was pretty cool. You mentioned Holier. I know I had heard that Metallica had covered that before live. They like to do that, where they cover all these bands that are influences for them, which I think is super cool.
And a lot of bands that nobody had ever heard of until they covered them.
Yeah, right. Like Diamond Head and like all those type of bands.
This band actually got more popular later, but some of those other bands they did,
right.
Yeah, it didn't get popular at all.
Yep, absolutely. But yeah, it's a solid, I guess, thrash record. Not really anything that I would listen to, But it is, again, very interesting that you get these two records that are just totally different than anything else they'll ever do. Just interesting seeing a band's roots and in getting that experience going through it. But I'm right there with you. This is better, so I put this as a D plus as well.
Nice.
But it's number 9, same as you. So we're right on board with each other, 9 and 10. Animosity number 10 D, or sorry, number 9 D plus.
All right. Here's what I'm going to talk about Technocracy for a little bit. 1987 was EP. Now, it's got 9 songs, but it was re-released. They originally only had 5 songs on it. It was re-released with 4 more songs, but those songs, 3 of them are already among the other 5, just re-released demo versions of those songs, but with one exception. So, Intervention is the only new and re-released song on the re-release, the only new one that wasn't included on the original EP. It's still crossover thrash. It does sound much better than Animosity, but not great. They recruited the singer Simon Bob to sing on the EP. So, hey, 3 Bobs. How about that?
Huh.
Simon Bob. But then they released him pretty much right after that. So,
Sorry,
but
Bob.
he did sing on those 5. I see you, Bob. So back to 2 Bobs again.
Right.
But this is the first I had ever heard of them from friends. I still didn't care for it at the time. A little too punk for me. Kind of not enough structure, and it kind of all sounds the same. But you can definitely hear a little bit of growth here. I did like Happily Ever After is okay, but it's kind of all over the place. And Crawling is good in spots when it slows down. When it starts slowing down, I was like, okay, I can listen to this, but it's not the whole song. It's only spots of the song. So most of it's a skipper for me. But again, I didn't rate this. Still not my thing. I just want to mention that this is the first that I had heard of them, and it was the song Technocracy, which is the first track on this one that my friends had heard, and they're like, hey, listen to this. And I'm like, yeah, can we not listen to that anymore?
Yeah.
So, but anyway, this was my first encounter with Corrosion Conformity. So anyway, we'll move on to Blind, which this is where Pepper Keenan enters, and this is where they become the band that everybody kind of knows and loves now, that really gained in popularity. This came out in November 5th, 1991. So it's a good 4 years. Obviously, they had some changes going on there where they changed their style. This first album with Pepper Keenan on rhythm guitar, he does sing one of these songs as lead, but they did have another singer, Carl Agel, at the time on vocals. He replaced Simon Bob. It's his only album with them from here on. Pepper Keenan sings when he's on the record, which there are a couple later that he's not on. But Weatherman and Reed are still in the band, but Phil Swisher rounded out the band at this time. So this is decidedly more straight metal sound instead of crossover thrash. It's a complete night and day difference. So Mike Dean's not around. I don't know if he's kind of the crossover thrash guy. Like, he'll come back to the band here coming up, but I don't know if maybe him being gone is why they changed direction, or if it was Pepper coming into the band. But thank God they did, because this is much, much better. I kind of lost them since I didn't really like them in 87, and I never heard this album even until much later, until I didn't even know this really came out. But it's definitely more enjoyable, and I did listen to this a lot once I did find it later on. Some good sludgy guitar-driven metal here. Really good collection of guitar riffs. But some songs are still better than others, though. My favorites here are Dance of the Dead, Break the Circle, Shallow Ground. Vote with a Bullet is the only Pepper Keenan fronted song on here, and I like that one a lot. Echoes in the Well is a true sludge/stoner metal sound. It's really got a down band sound to it, and maybe was kind of an influence. Pepper Keenan, also a member of Down. I feel like this song kind of really lays the groundwork for what that band's going to sound like, because it sounds exactly like a Down song. It's really good. Echoes in the Well, slow, kind of dark, sludgy, really good stuff. I didn't really have any skippers. It's all pretty good. Some of it I like more than others. Like, I like that group of songs. The other ones not so much, but there's nothing really worth skipping here. So I had this all the way up to a B all of a sudden. So we went from D plus, and if I was going to rate Technocracy, it would still be C minus D plus range too. This is all the way up to a B. There's, this is number 3 for me on their list. This is pretty good for a reformed band with 3 members, and it sounds really good too. John Custer, who I think goes on to produce all of the rest of their records from here on out, he really did a good job producing it. It sounds fantastic. Like it's night and day, like material wise and sound wise from production wise from what they were doing before. Just night and day. So really good stuff. Rated just a solid B. Number 3 for me. What did you think of Blind?
Yeah, it's really good. And honest opinion here, I never heard this album ever until this week.
Nice.
I
really want to hear what you think of it.
Yeah, like I actually was kind of blown away because I was reading about it before, and I seen that Pepper only sang on one song on this album, which that's the one song I knew from this album. I just saw them whenever at Sonic, and they closed with Vote with a Bullet. So that song is fresh in my mind. I always make a playlist depending on what they're playing. So that's the only reason I had that on there and knew that song. But nothing else on this I've heard of prior to this podcast prep. So I was pleasantly surprised. The riffs are awesome on this.
Yeah.
It's like you said, probably as sludgy as they're ever going to get. They kind of roll with the stoner metal kind of straight, almost Southern rock, like you said, down, like almost like a harder Lynyrd Skynyrd later on. But in this case, again, they just kind of nailed the sludgy stoner really, really well. Not a huge fan of the singer, Carl Agel or Agile or whatever his name is. Not a huge fan. Obviously, I like the Pepper singing a lot better coming up, but the riffs are just, you can't ignore them. They're the songwriting. You could tell now that Pepper's writing. And I know he becomes the principal writer later on, but just you could tell the difference. Adding that second guitarist, I think, is exactly what these guys needed. Right with you with Dance of the Dead. That song is pretty damn catchy. I was like, this is cool. I like Painted Smiling Face, Break the Circle a lot. Obviously, Vote with a Bullet. That's the one song I'd heard of. Killer track. And I agree with the Echoes in the Well. That it's definitely got down written all over it.
Oh, it's good stuff.
It's a really, really good riff, good sound. And like the production is night and day. Obviously, it gets a little bit better in the next couple albums. The next 3 albums, the production just gets better and better. But this is solid. This is a really, really good album. Was really impressed by it. Just like you, this moved up to a B for me, but this one's number 4. So right, same ballpark. It's really, really good. I really like the other 3 quite a bit better, but this is really, really good. And I think actually there's a pretty big gap between 4 and 5 too. So this is a really damn good album. I will definitely come back to this again.
Yes, sir.
I really, really like it. It's a metal album with a little bit of stoner and sludge in it. I'm into that. I mean,
yep.
I like a lot of those type of bands. So
guitar riffs, man. Oh,
it's a beautiful
some
thing.
solos too in there,
Yep.
So they're gonna get even more of that, but
yep,
with some solos in there. But yeah, you think I'd like Painted Smiling Face a little bit more too, like you did, considering the clowns that we are.
Yeah, I know. We do like some painted faces.
That's right. That's a little throwback to the Bon Jovi podcast. Go back and listen to that one.
Yeah.
So
but I'm liking Blind number 4 and a B.
Nice. All right, on to Deliverance, which is kind of funny because I when I wrote the date here, I wrote they came out on September 37th, 1994. So pretty interesting how that happened. But anyway, September 27th, 1994. 14 songs on this one. I'm going to go ahead and correct that right now. John Custer produced once again. I feel like this one has more of kind of a thinner, distant sound to it than Blind did. Now, it doesn't sound bad.
Yeah.
But I feel like this one kind of took a step back a little bit on the production for some reason. I don't know why it sounds that way, but I feel like, as I got through it, I kind of got used to it more towards the end.
Okay.
but I just, you know, I don't know. I just at first I was like, man, I'm like, I feel like Blind sounded quite a bit better than this. I was just listening to them in order. I was kind of shocked that this one didn't sound better than it did. But like I said, it's still way better than the earlier stuff, and it sounded fine, but
Yeah.
not to the good or really good level like I felt like Blind did. So um, Carl Egel and Phil Swisher left in 1993. So Pepper just took over vocals here and became the main songwriter. And Mike Dean returned on bass, who also contributes backing vocals as well. So, but they kept the sound. It didn't go back to the sound they had and the type of music they were playing when Mike Dean was part of the band before. So, um, like you said, you had already nailed it. More of a southern sound than just kind of sludge and stoner metal. They definitely mix some southernness in here. This is the COC, the Corrosion Conformity sound that most people recognize today. Pretty much started on this album. Not that Blind wasn't good. It was kind of a bridge to get to this
Yeah.
point, and this going forward is what most people, kind of relate to Corrosion of Conformity. My favorites are here are Albatross. Great Southern Black Sabbath kind of sound to it. Really, really good song. Clean My Wounds, I liked a lot. It's a cool sounding guitar solo in there. I like 7 Days a lot. There's no skippers for me here. I have this as a B plus. I feel like this one it's got slightly catchier songs than Blind and more killer guitar riffs, but I just wish the production was a little bit fuller than it is. But B plus number 2 for me on Deliverance. I really, really did like this album. They're going in a great direction for me. What did you think of Deliverance?
Yeah, this is great for me. I mean, I am very familiar with this album. I got into them for their next album, but I went back to this one like immediately because this is the first time I saw them in concert. So I went back. They only played from this album and the one after it. So I was like, well, I got to hear the rest of this album, and I played the heck out of it. To me, maybe I'm kind of, I guess my mind's not wrapping around the production of it. To me, the songs are just the songs. So maybe I'm missing where it was lacking a little bit, but these songs are just so good. Like it's just such a, I don't know. It's just so different. And obviously Pepper Keenan is the reason. Just a complete master at this stuff with the guitars and guitar solos and his voice. He's got such a unique voice singing the lyrics, and maybe not the best lyric writer. I think sometimes it's a little silly. There's times listening to all these albums where I'm just like giggling at the types of things that he's
Right.
talking about. Like
Yeah.
it's pretty silly, bro. But man, you cannot ignore these riffs. There's not really anything on this that I would skip. I think this is peak Pepper songwriting here for sure. Heaven's Not Overflowing is a great way to start the album. Of course, Albatross, like you said, that it literally is taken from a Tony Iommi. The da 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 da.
Oh yeah,
Like
no doubt.
that's literally Black Sabbath. Clean My Wounds is so good.
Mm-hmm.
Broken Man, 7 Days. I love the title track, even though that's the one song on here that Keenan didn't write. Awesome song. And I love the closer, Pearls Before Swine. This album is peak Corrosion of Conformity for me. This is number 1. This is letter A for me. So this is timeless for me. I guess it feels like at this point I'm listening to like a classic metal album at this point, where maybe the production could be better, but this is an A album for me. I don't skip anything. I come back to it all the time. When we talk Corrosion of Conformity, this is the one I come back to. So a pretty easy number 1 for me. I think this is head and shoulders their best writing for sure. So Deliverance for me is number 1 and an A.
3 instrumentals on this album too, which I thought was interesting. I was like, man, it's like 3 songs instrumental, 2 songs instrumental, 2 more or another song and an instrumental.
Yeah.
So, but
Like
yeah,
interludes.
this album definitely, just kind of interlude-ish, like you said. This album definitely delivered though.
Yeah.
So good
Word.
stuff. On to Wise Blood, October 15th, 1996. 13 songs here. John Custer again. This sounds better than Deliverance to me, like just going one from the other. There was just a little bit of a drop there. I'm not sure I really even docked them for the production. I just wish it was a little fuller. Like I felt like it was missing kind of like the low end. Like I couldn't hear the bass as much. And maybe that was due to switching bass players, and maybe they play different, so it might have been a little bit of that. It wasn't like didn't mean to make it sounded like crap, but it just didn't sound as good. And I thought that was weird coming off of with the same producer coming off with an album I thought was sounded really good. So, but anyway, this is kind of back to that level again. So this is the highest peak position on Billboard for them, at 104 for 22 years until the last album they released came out. It didn't sell very well though. So like it peaked, but then it didn't sell as well as the previous two albums for some reason. But going back to this album, now this is a band for me that's kind of an out of sight, out of mind band. Like they haven't come out with a new album in 7 years. But when I go back, and I have these albums, when I go back and listen to these, I'm like, man, why do I not listen to this more than I do?
Yep.
Like this is fantastic stuff. I never get sick of this album. I went back to it. I listened to it a ton at different times of my life. A lot of it was around this time when they went on tour with Metallica. They opened for them on the Load tour. Saw them there for the first time. And like, I really, really like this album. And at this point, I feel like Pepper Keenan is an absolute riff machine at this point. Coming from Deliverance, and then Down Nola comes out in 95, and then this album comes out in 96. Like, that is crazy, crazy great output.
Yep.
There's so many great songs all over these albums. Like you just said, you just had that last album, number one. And then Down Nola is just ridiculously great. And then this one on top of that, this one's my number one album. Like, crazy, crazy good songs just coming out of this man. He's just sweating riffs. Like, it's crazy. So my favorites are King of the Rotten. Oh, God, I can't get enough of King of the Rotten. Long Whip, Big America. Goodbye Windows. Like, kind of a weird name for a song, but man, that's a great one. Drowning in a Daydream. I love, love, love that song. The Door. I like Man or Ash with James Hetfield on guest vocals. Oh, good stuff. And Redemption City also. Like all of those songs a lot. So this is great stuff for me. This is right in my wheelhouse. This is peak Corrosion Conformity for me. Like the last album into this one, this is kind of the apex of the mountain for me here. This is my A. This is my number one, my favorite Corrosion Conformity album. These songs still stick with me almost 30 years later. I wish they played here more often back then. You know, like they barely played here. Like if you go back and look at the set list, they barely ever came to Cleveland, man. So they opened for Metallica and played what, like 7 songs?
Yep.
Like, man, I wish I could have seen them play for this album or the last album or Blind, somewhere in there and do like a headlining set, man, it's just, they didn't come here often enough for me. Or I probably honestly would have been a lot bigger fan of this band. They wouldn't have been so out of sight, out of mind for me. Like they put this album out. I'm like, this is fantastic. I listen to crap out of it. Then I see them for like 5 minutes open for Metallica. And then I don't get to see them again, and I got to wait for another like 4 years until the next album comes out because Down's coming out. And, I don't get to listen to Corrosion Conformity stuff a lot because I would have seen any other band 2 or 3 times for this album if they had come here, but they just didn't. So kind of sucks, but it doesn't make this album any worse. It's really good. This is a number one for me. What did you think of Wise Blood?
Yeah, this is awesome stuff too. I'm with you. Yeah, it is. It's really good. This is, like I said, this is where I found them. This is where I locate. Same show as you. Was really, really lucky. I like to tell my story is me and my buddies were down at the Gund at the time. Now it's Quicken Arena or Rocket
Arena
House and Rocket
Arena now.
So
we changed names like 5 times.
So we were seniors in high school and we went downtown and did a raffle, and we were picked like 5th or 6th. So we got front row seats to the first. They did 2
general
dates.
admission, right?
No, it was right up.
Oh, I got
actually
it.
row 1,
front row, row on the sides there.
Yeah,
because they had general admission around the whole in the round stage down on the floor there.
Yeah.
So.
So we got row one and opening for Metallica on the Load tour, like you said, Corrosion of Conformity, and I was like, this band is awesome. They had I think Drowning in a Daydream on the radio at the time on WMMS. So I did know that song, but I didn't know anything else that they had. That song, by the way, it sounds to me a lot like Load. Like it could have come off of like the Load album. It's very of the time, like
see that.
90s metal.
Yeah.
So I loved it. I loved Load, like we talked about with Metallica. I loved Load. I thought that was awesome album. You know, not Master Puppets or Justice for All. But
yeah, in a different way.
In a
right?
different
There's
way,
a lot
it was
of great
good.
songs on there.
But Drowning in a Daydream, definitely loved that song. Had a cool solo in it. But after I saw them, like I said, I picked up Wise Blood, and then I was like, I love this. And then I picked up Deliverance, and I was like, I love this. And that's kind of as far as it got with me. But awesome album for sure. It's really, really close with Deliverance. King of the Rotten, like you said, just epic. Long Whip, Big America. I love the title track. They play that live. They still play it live. Drowning in a Daydream, like we said. Manor Ash. Wishbone, Some Tomorrow, pretty good. A couple misses on this for me, like Fuel, a little closer to like the older school stuff. Ending with that instrumental almost 8 minutes long to me was kind of a little tedious. But these nitpicky things that I'm finding is the reason I put this at number 2 and an A- instead of Deliverance at 1 and an A. Both epic albums as far as I'm concerned. It was really close to rank those two for me because I love them both. Just those few little misses at the end kind of swayed it for me, but phenomenal. Like you said, Pepper is the man. Wise Blood, number 2, A- right there. Excellent album. Love it.
Nice. So my story for was funny. It's so crazy, having met this man here, Heard, and like all of these weird parallels that we've had in our lives at different times and just never knew each other. It's so strange. So I was at a Silverchair show with a buddy of mine, okay, like 4 days before Metallica came here. I didn't have tickets to the Load show at all. So we're at this Silverchair show for their second album, Freak Show. And I swear we're the oldest. All right, I'm 24 at the time. So this is 1996, right? So
Yep.
I'm 24, and my buddy is like 2 years older than me or whatever. So we're like the biggest, oldest dudes in this whole place. It's like we were at a show with a bunch of kindergartners. It was so weird. Like we could see, and this is at the Odeon, we could see over top of everybody's head. Like it was like we were these giants. We're not giants. We're just, I'm pretty tall for a guy, but not that tall. My buddy's an inch or two shorter than me, but we were like heads above everybody else. So these kids standing next to us were like, man, you gotta protect us, man. They were like scared, and you're not going to have a big mosh pit for Silverchair. Like him and I had been to enough shows. We know that you're not going to have a big mosh pit for this show, but they're all like worried because the place was jam packed, right? This place holds 1,000 people. The stage is up about 4 feet off the floor, and the floor is all flat, so it's just big wood floor. So, but we could see perfectly. It was outstanding, and we're just kind of right in the middle. So these kids were just like, man, you got to protect us. We're like, yeah, all right, whatever, no big deal. So anyway, we're chatting with them, and they're like, hey, are you guys going to the Metallica show? And we're like, no, like we don't have tickets. And he's like, hey, my buddy's got 3 extra tickets he's trying to sell. Do you guys want to go? And we're like, yeah, I guess so. Like, where are you guys from? So it turns out they're from like Cloverleaf area, which is, about 40 minutes or so south of where I lived. Right. So I'm like, all right, man. He's like, give me your number. And, we somehow, we didn't have cell phones. So somehow we got something to take this dude's number down. And I'm like, all right, well, I'll call you tomorrow and we'll work it out. And he's like, we'll just sell them to you for face value, which at the time was, I don't know, $40, something like that. So I called my brother, and he's still living up here. He's in South Carolina now, but he was still living up here. And I'm like, hey, he's 3 years younger than I am, but he loves Metallica too. So I'm like, hey, do you want to go see Metallica in like 2 days? And he's like, sure. I'm like, all right, this guy's got 3 tickets. He's got to sell them to us for face value. I have no idea where the seats are. So I'm like, let me drive down there. So I drive down there, money in hand, cash in hand. This is the second time, mind you, I've done this for Metallica. I shared on a Metallica podcast for Injustice for All that I found tickets in a magazine, and I drove out 40 minutes away to another city to some dude's house with cash and got really good seats to Metallica too for the Injustice for All tour. So this is the second time now this has happened to me. So I drive down to this guy's house, or this, weird kind of house where, like, I remember there's cars in the driveway, a bunch of cars in the driveway. Like, it seemed like a bunch of people lived there. So I'm like, what am I getting into here? Are they going to take my money? I don't know what's going on. So, but again, I'm thinking these were kids, right? So I'm like, I don't know. I'm an adult. Like, I'm not really that worried about it. So
Right.
I go in there and I'm like, so what's the worst? They take $120 from me or whatever, for 3 tickets. I'm like, whatever. So I knock on the door and his kids come out. I got tickets. And then we ended up on the side, like kind of in the middle of the side sections. And this was a great big stage. They had drum kits at both ends. Metallica, This is when they started doing the in the round thing. I think they had a snake pit in the middle for the VIP people. And then there was like a thin group of people standing around the outside of the stage. So then on the sides, you were really close to the side of the stage there. And it ended up we were in the third row on the side, like the third row up in the lower bowl. It was fantastic. It was an unbelievable show. Yeah. And I got tickets like 3 days before from some strangers that I'd never met. Had I not gone and saw Silverchair, yeah, I mean, what are the odds? How does this stuff happen, right? So, and the funny thing is, I wouldn't be surprised if you weren't sitting in the same damn section, probably 2 rows in front of me. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. So anyway, that was my story of getting tickets to this Load show. And again, it's the first time I ever saw Corrosion Conformity. I'm like, I really love this album. I had heard, Drowning in a Daydream too. And, I had this album by that time and I really liked it. And it was, they only played songs, like you said, off of Deliverance in this one. They didn't play anything else. I don't think, maybe they played one off of Blind. I can't even remember.
I don't think so.
I don't think they did either, but it was really good show. And I'm like, man, these guys are really good. They had a great big, as you can see behind her, they had a great big pig's head, with all the points, all the
pyramids,
the pyramids from the back of the dollar bill, around them. And just the huge backdrop, and I'm like, this was fantastic, and I couldn't believe we got tickets just a couple of days before from some total strangers. So, anyway, awesome stuff. So I'll move on now to 4 years later, which I'm guessing, I don't know, there's a lot of down touring in there, for their first albums, got really popular. They were doing Ozfest. Down was. I want to say they came out with Down 2 somewhere in here too, but I know Pantera was putting stuff out because Phil, obviously, from Down is in Pantera, and, Crowbar and I Hate God are probably putting stuff out too. So I don't remember if Down 2 came out somewhere in there, but I don't know why.
2002.
Okay. So yeah, I really can't understand why it took 4 years for Corrosion of Conformity to put out another album. It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
So as good as they were, and as the momentum that they had going on, opening for Metallica, which was, I'm sure, a long tour, they had something to do with it too. But I can't believe they weren't writing songs and didn't get another album out in like 98,
Yeah.
So this is September 26, 2000, called America's Volume Dealer. And there's 11 songs on here. This is John Custer again. This is the last album for Reed Mullins until 2010. So for 10 years, I guess he misses, I don't know, 2 albums in there. This album, though, it's kind of all over the place. Like, I kept like, again, this is why this band kind of gets out of sight, out of mind to me, because I'm listening to all this stuff, and if Corrosion would have just put another album out, I'd have been all over it after how much I liked Wise Blood. So I just don't understand what happened there. And then they put this out, and I'm like, cool, but it's kind of all over the place. Like, I have this album upstairs, and it never really kind of caught with me. There's some country stuff in there, with Stare Too Long, and then there's some funk type stuff in there with Diablo and Zippo. There's some alt rock stuff in there with Double Wide. Like, this album is not just like Southern metal sludge stuff that they were doing so great at. It's kind of all over the place. So I don't know. There's some really good songs here, but there's just not that many of them. So I don't know why. It really, you can probably hear it in my voice. It's really disappointing for me coming off of the greatness that I really thought. I'm like, man, I can't wait. These guys got to put out the next like 3-4 albums are going to be fantastic. And then by the time this comes out, I'm like, oh. And then the worst part is there's 5 more years until the next album comes out after this. So, man, it's rough. So my favorites are Over Me, the first song, fantastic song, really, really good song. Congratulations, song number 2. The second song on here is really good, and I like 13 Angels a lot. Skippers. Now, this is a really popular song for them. I think it's the most popular song on this album, but
Diablo
Stare
Boulevard?
Too Long.
Oh.
Stare Too Long. It's just too country for me, man. It's kind of Leonard Skinner-ish, I guess, but it's just to me. And I didn't really like Zippo, and I didn't like Double Wide, kind of for the reasons I already mentioned. So I think Stare Too Long is the most played one on Spotify from them off of this album. And I'm like, I don't get it, because this doesn't really sound that much like Corrosion Conformity to me. So anyway, I have this as C. This is number 6. There's some really good songs, and then there's some weird, almost experimental stuff. And I like parts of other songs, but not the whole thing. So not a whole lot to skip, but not a whole lot I really love either. So just number 6, kind of middle of the road C for me. What did you think of America's Volume Dealer?
I actually like this one more than you.
Okay.
This one, I just...
kind of surprises me, actually.
Yeah.
Just because it's kind of all over the place. And you don't really like the country stuff either when it gets into your metal, when it gets mixed in there, you know?
Yeah. This is catchy. I think this is just a little bit catchier. Like almost all these choruses, I think, are really, really good. At least most of them. I find myself when listening to this more earworms, I think, especially than going forward. But yeah, I really like this album. It's very catchy, very polished sounding. It sounds very radio friendly, which is a little bit weird for Corrosion of Conformity. I just think those 2 albums are just so much better than everything else that it's hard to listen to Wise Blood and then put this one on right after and just be like, yeah, I mean, because it doesn't compare. But I don't think they ever get back to that. Like, they never compared those 2
definitely
albums.
not.
So I think this is
even the 3. If you throw Blind in there, like, they don't come close to any of those after that for me.
Well, I do like this one better than Blind. It's a little bit catchier.
For me,
I gotcha. But yeah, you mentioned the first 2 songs are awesome. I actually do not like Stare Too Long. With you, I agree. I don't like that song. I actually thought this album was going to go downhill, but I love Diablo Boulevard. I think it's awesome. So it kind of went right back where it started for me. Over Me, congratulations song, very good. Stare Too Long, not good. Diablo Boulevard, awesome. Double Wide, pretty good. Zippo, a little weird, like you said, but I don't.
You like that funk stuff in there?
Yeah,
huh?
I do. Just like what's that? The Coheed with the funky stuff that you're like, man, I hate that.
Okay, well, then I guess that
could have been Bruno Mars.
Right. You're right.
Like, yeah.
All right, that makes sense.
But America's Volume Dealer for me, I was surprised. I didn't think I was going to like it as much as I did, but for me, it's all the way up to number 3. Like I said, I like it a little better than Blind. Just catchy for me. I think this is the one album that I wasn't really that familiar with that I'll come back to for sure. I'm kind of a new fan of this. Good stuff. I think not as good as the first 2, but that's why it's a B for me. America's Volume Dealer, number 3, letter B for me.
All right, so on to 5 more years later. So they basically put out 1 album in 9 years. Oh my God, why? Anyway, in the Arms of God, April 5th, 2005, 12 songs on here. John Custer and the band produced this one. This is the only album without Reed Mullen. Stanton Martin on drums here. This is the last album with Pepper Keenan until 2018. Although he did return to the band in 2014, but he's not on the album for that year. Although I think he co-wrote a song or 2, but he doesn't perform on the album. There's some longer songs on this one too. This is over 64 minutes. So now we're getting into some long stuff here. But nothing really too weird here for me, though. There's just some pretty straight up Corrosion Conformity. Just the problem with this one for me is just not a lot of it's memorable. It doesn't have,
agreed.
Those songs like Wise Blood and Deliverance Stew where just they stick in my head. And when I hear them again, I'm like, yep, I love that song. Like this one doesn't have that, but it sounds good. And, I think I only have one skipper on this whole album out of 12 songs, out of 60 whatever minutes, and that's Crown of Thorns. But even that song, it's only 2.5 minutes long.
Yep.
So, I mean, I can kind of stomach that, but it's pretty straight up Corrosion Conformity. It's just, not a lot memorable, which kind of sucks. But my favorites here is Stonebreaker, It Is That Way, Rise River Rise, and World of Fire. I liked those 4 songs the best out of the 12. This is a B- for me. This is number 4. It was pretty enjoyable. I actually like this one. Now, I didn't like the last album, so this one just got lost to me. I don't remember when this came out. I didn't buy this like when it came out or download it or whatever at the time in 2005. I found out about it later. I'm like, oh, Corrosion's got a new album out, and guess what? They have another 7 years before they come out with another album. So somewhere in there, I found this album, and I don't think I loved it then, but I actually enjoy it more now than I thought I would, because I think I remember listening to it maybe once or twice back then, and I was like, okay, it's okay, but nothing really kind of stood out. Like, it kind of still does, but I like it a little bit more now. I will come back to this one and try to listen to it again to see if something kind of catches with me a little bit more, because even this week is probably the 3rd time I've listened to the album in 20 years.
Right.
So, I mean, that's not really a lot of repeat listens. Maybe this one will kind of grow on me a little bit, but I like the straight aheadness, Corrosion Conformity of it more than kind of the experimental stuff on the last album. So this is a B-. This is number 4. Just not a whole lot memorable from the one listen, aside from a few songs, I guess. But what did you think of In the Arms of God?
Yeah, pretty good. I mean, it's still Pepper Keenan. You can definitely still hear his guitar in it. That's the key for me. That's kind of the separator, I think, with a lot of these albums. Can I hear Pepper Keenan's voice, and can I hear his guitar ripping away? With Weatherman, of course, he's obviously part of the equation, but they work well together. Definitely a good record. The first couple tracks are really good. I like 1, Stonebreaker, 2, Paranoid Opioid. I actually heard that live also when I just seen them. They played that, so that was cool. It Is That Way, like you mentioned, also very, very good. After the first 3, it takes a little bit of a downturn for me. I get kind of lost in the middle of this record. I think like Never Turns to More, a little bit too long. We're talking 8 minutes now.
Mm-hmm.
I do like the last track, though. It's a little long, In the Arms of God. The title track, I think, is really good for a closer. Really good guitar riffs and solos in there. Solid album, for sure. I think I will kind of come back and maybe with a fresh set of ears and listen, because I kind of obviously grinded this band since I was on vacation.
Sure.
So
me too, and it's kind of all I listen to. Where if you mix this in with somebody else we're going to do in a month from now, and just kind of mix this in there, maybe it stands out more. I feel like thinking the same thing.
Yeah, I feel like this album has room for me to grow, because there's nothing about it I dislike.
Right.
I think I kind of got lost in the middle of it, and it took it down a little bit for me. It started out so strong, and I think it ended pretty strong as well. So good album. Number 5 for me, and a B-, just like you had it.
Almost exactly the same.
Yeah, it's a good, solid album. Like, the guitars are good. It sounds so good. Produced
really does.
really, really well. It sounded so good in my headphones. So
they knew what they were doing it by this point. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, there's no doubt that their production was really good by now.
Yep, absolutely. So yeah, good stuff. Number 5, B- for me.
Okay, on to 7 more years almost. February 28th, 2012. Corrosion of Conformity, self-titled album. So there's 11 songs here, produced again by John Custer. Now, though, with the departure of Pepper Keenan, they're back to the trio of Woody Weatherman, Reed Mullen, and Mike Dean, with Dean and Weatherman splitting the vocals. Now, what does that mean? That means we're back to no good, unfortunately. This one, though, is really weird because they seem to try to mix their punk thrash crossover, hardcore crossover with the sludge and kind of southern doom metal. Like, it's listed on Spotify as stoner rock and sludge metal. I don't know. In almost every one of these songs, there's half of those songs. There's a half of each one of those songs that doesn't sound anything like sludge or stoner rock
Yeah.
at all. And I'm like, what are they talking about? So it's just a really weird mix going on here. It's just more kind of weird sludge, punk, thrash, in the middle. Yuck. I didn't care for this at all. So there's parts of a lot of songs that I like because a lot of them kind of start off and they're a little bit slower, and you're like, all right, this has got some promise. And then the tempo doubles, and then they're into this punk stuff, and the singing's not very good. I mean, the vocals just aren't good. Like Pepper isn't the greatest singer in the world, but he's far and away better than what they're doing on here.
Yeah.
So I don't know what's going on or what they're trying to do. I think I read somewhere they were trying to like revisit the Animosity days, I guess, because that was the three of them then too. But if you're gonna do that, just go straight. It's like they're trying to please two groups of people. They're trying to please the people who like Animosity, but also trying to please the people who like the Pepper Keenan stuff. And it just doesn't mix together at all. It doesn't work. There's a reason why nobody does that. I mean, I guess I give them credit for trying it, but it doesn't work at all. And why they didn't stop that sometime in production or in rehearsals and be like, look, man, I don't know if this is going to work. I don't know what about this they thought sounded good. So again, I give them credit for trying, and I don't want to bash a band that I really, really liked there for a time, but this is not good. It's not good. So my favorites, I guess, are Your Tomorrow and What We Become are okay songs, but Skipper's almost all of this is not for me. Yeah. Just a really weird mix of styles that don't go together. I wrote in here, I was trying to compare it to something. I said, kind of like putting mustard on ice cream. Like, what are you doing? Like,
yeah.
Who does that? Maybe there's a person or two in the world that does that somewhere, but that's how many people probably like this style of metal, hardcore, whatever it is, whatever they want to call it. So Skippers are almost all of this. There's a few that might dig it. Like I said, there are people that like all kinds of stuff. So different strokes for different folks. This is a D+. This is an 8 for me. This is down by the first two albums. At least it has its sludgy moments. So that's what puts it above those two, but it's only moments, and I won't be coming back to this for any reason anytime soon. What did you think of the self-titled album Corrosion Conformity?
Yeah, pretty rough. I mean, it sounded better produced than Animosity. So that
absolutely, yeah, they got that down.
They got that down, and that actually stood out for me. Where it was like, okay, well, this is better sounding punkish. But you're right, though. There is some sludgy riffs mixed in there. It sounds very strange, like you said. It's almost like I don't know. I agree. It
shocks you in the middle of the song. I'm like, whoa, what is this?
Yeah, there'll be like
not in a good way.
A punk song and then into a sludgy riff, and it's like you said, it's a mix of a couple styles. It just doesn't work, and obviously the vocals it just really is a sore thumb on these guys. Like you said, like Pepper Keenan is not. Nobody's ever going to be like that. He's the best vocalist out there in metal or whatever, but. I mean, he at least has his sound of you hear him, you're like, well, okay, there you go. That's Corrosion of Conformity, because obviously he doesn't sing with down. That's Phil. So it's more just the guitar riffs. And this is just missing everything. Unfortunately, it's not Corrosion of Conformity as far as
it's you concerned. Yelling into a mic or me yelling into a mic or Mike Dean yelling into a mic. Like it's indiscernible. Like I don't know. Who is this guy?
I don't know.
He's just yelling into a mic.
Yeah. It's kind of wild to me that, you look on the good thing about Wikipedia, you start looking into them and it tells you like the different review scores and stuff that a lot of these magazines have. And I just don't get it. A lot of them are like 7s and 8s. Like this is not 7 or 8 out of 10 when we're talking about the same band that
Blabbermouth, 8 out of 10. Yeah. You know, what's funny is I didn't like this so much, I didn't bother even reading any further. I'm like, I'm not wasting my time on any of this. So it's funny you say that because I didn't notice that. Now I look and bam, it's right there. Blabbermouth.net, 8 out of 10. I'd love to hear what they say about it, though.
Yeah.
Like, why do they think this is so good?
Yeah.
Because nobody's ever done it before and nobody's ever done it since. Is that why?
Maybe. I don't know. But I'm right with you. It's number 8 for me, obviously right after or right before Animosity and Eye for an Eye. It's better produced, so I give them credit for that. They know how to make an album now, but it's just too weird with the extremes. Just trying to mix the punk, and there's just the vocals are just kind of nonsense to me. They're not real songs that I can remember.
It's like cleaner smelling garbage, right?
I guess so. Yeah. So, but yeah, this is a D plus for me as well, and an 8. So
okay, we agree 100% on that.
100%.
All right, so on to number 9, which is album number 9.
9.
So, IX. This is you said it, 9. Meaning no.
Right.
July 1st, 2014, 11 songs, produced again by John Custer and Corrosion Conformity. Oh boy. So this is more of the same. I had more higher hopes for this, but it's more of the same. Still no Pepper on this album. More Pepper, sir. No Pepper. No Pepper on this one, unfortunately. The same trio again as the last album. Pepper would come back after this album was completed, though. The vocals still suffer tremendously without Pepper Keenan. It's a little better than the last album's weirdness. The songwriting definitely suffers without Pepper too, but some of it is at least listenable. I kept almost cringing, waiting for the other shoe to drop in the middle of some of the songs, and sometimes it didn't happen. So I was like, "Ooh, okay." So my favorites are The Hanged Man and Who You Need to Blame. Both of those songs I thought were okay. Skippers for me are Denmark Vestry and The Bad Nectar. I called it because there's the Nectar, and then the song 11 is the Nectar Revised. Well, the Nectar song 4 is the Bad Nectar. The revised Nectar for 1 minute 20, track 11 as the last song is the Good Nectar.
The refreshing nectar.
Want to listen to this album, listen to this and think of it as the Bad Nectar and stick around for the refreshing nectar because there's some tasty nectar there at the end. Just kind of sounds like Black Sabbath. It's mostly just instrumental for the most part. So the singing doesn't suffer and there's no weird punkness to it. It's actually pretty good, but it's 1 minute 20. So unfortunately. So this I have as a C minus. This is just a little bit better than the last album, but a number 7. So this is I got 7, 8, 9, and 10 are all albums where they have their punk crossover thrash in them, or all of them, and it's just none of that's for me. So the 1 through 6 is my Corrosion Conformity, and everything else is just not for me. So what did you think of number 9? 9.
Yeah, not great. I think we're on the same page with this, obviously, because we feel the same way with our musical tastes. What's weird to me is Pepper must have been close to coming back at this point because he had a writing credit on here that Tarquinius Superbus.
Yes, and you can kind of hear. Isn't that mostly I think it's like half instrumental, but
yeah,
Tarquinius Superbus. There, you can definitely tell in there. It's not a great song to me, but you can definitely tell there's some Pepper Keenan involvement there.
Yeah. So, I mean, I do know that Down wrote their last, they did a double EP.
Yeah. Part 1 and 2.
Part 1 and 2. And that part 2 was released about 2 months before this came out. So I feel like there must have been some end there in sight for Down. And Pepper was like, all right, we finished, the second part of our EP, and now I'm ready to get back to COC again. So I feel like there was something in the works there. I don't know that for sure. I don't know that we know that, but just they were itching for Pepper to come back. They tried. Again, it sounds good. The production's good. I do like the second half of the album a little bit better. That first half, I agree with you. Just kind of unlistenable almost, just with what they're doing. The Hanged Man, I think you noticed, the Tarquinius Superbus, Who You Need to Blame, the Nectar Revised is better.
Yeah.
And I think that second half pushes it in the same place that you had it.
Yeah.
Number 7, C minus, C to C minus. It's okay.
Mhm.
but easily these are the bottom 4, without Pepper. It's just not what I want to listen to, especially with this band. So we're right in the same place with this, definitely. So 9 is number 7, C to a C minus.
All right. So on to their most recently released album. Again, that was January 12th, 2018. So it's been over 7 years. Unfortunately, I kind of feel like this band might be done at this point, although they are still touring. As
They
you
are.
said, you did just see them. So I wish they'd kind of tour a little bit more, maybe. I don't know. How did Pepper sound, singing wise?
Not great, but
Okay. So you can definitely tell there's a drop off then.
but their music still sounds awesome, and
Right.
there's definitely a drop off.
Okay.
Pepper's an old guy now. I mean,
Yeah. Well, I ask that because that to me is kind of what hurts this album to me is he's back, right?
agreed.
And got to be better. So this is No Cross, No Crown, 15 songs. John Custer and the band produced again. But I figured Pepper's back has got to be better. It's just kind of a weird mix, though, production wise, with the vocals kind of faded back quite a bit
Very far.
compared with previous Pepper fronted albums. I felt like maybe his voice was suffering at the time. Like he's writing pretty good riffs, but like I can barely hear him sometimes, and until the music really quiets down, then I can hear him and I can tell. I'm like, okay, he doesn't sound nearly as good, and he's not Ronnie James Dio, but he definitely is not himself either on this
No.
album. So
Right.
so maybe that's why they don't record anymore. I'm not sure. It's kind of hard to get another singer in to kind of sound like him. I don't know. That's kind of a weird thing. And if he can't sing, we know that they're not going to have Dean and Weatherman sing. And that's not going to happen. So Reed Mullen would pass away, sadly. Rest in peace, Reed Mullen, in 2020. And Mike Dean left the band in 2024, so he's not going to be singing anything unless he comes back. So it does contain a Queen cover, Son and Daughter, written by Brian May, which is interesting. This is the first album also with the classic lineup since 2000, so it's been 18 years. But really, what are we talking? 3 albums? Well, 2 albums and then 2 really albums that were not very good, that weren't even almost mentionable. But 15 songs, man, that's too many. But 4 of them are a minute and a half or less, so that does help. But it's 15 songs is a lot, especially when it's not great. It's not bad,
Yeah,
but it's not as good as most of the earlier Pepper stuff by a large margin. Some of these songs sound very similar riffs, similar vocal cadence amongst the songs on this album. Kind of like they wrote a song and then they wrote a song that was a little bit of a variation of that, and then another little variation of that, and then they had this other thing and then did kind of variations of that. It kind of seemed like. So just a lot of similar vocal cadence where I was almost like, man, have I heard this before previously on this album? Like it was very similar. But there are some decent songs here, obviously, because Pepper's back. So there's definitely some really good riffs, and when you can hear them, there's some good stuff here. I liked Little Man, I liked Forgive Me, and I liked Old Disaster. Are my 3 favorites on this one. Only really one skipper, and that's No Cross, No Crown, the title track. I didn't really care for that one at all, but that's really the only skipper. So this one for me is kind of a C plus, number 5. I have this kind of in the middle. Now, I don't know, maybe looking back, maybe Volume Dealer might be a little bit better than this one. I'm not sure. Those 2 are really close for me. So that one just having the weird stuff in it that this one kind of doesn't have. But this one's got a weird mix where the vocals are faded back where Volume Dealer doesn't, So I don't know. So this was kind of right there with that one, number 5. Listenable to somewhat enjoyable. Much, much better than the previous 2 albums. I try not to overrate things based on the previous albums because if I'm listening to them in order, which I almost always do, I'm coming off of 2 just albums that I could barely get through. And I listen to this, and this sounds like God himself has come down to put this in my ears, like I'm like, okay, it's not really that good. So like, let me, kind of temper it down a little bit. So that's where I feel like maybe the order I listen to them in kind of makes America's Volume Dealer suffer a little bit, where
probably
it is a little weird and it's weirder than what they were doing before that. But then this one is just so much better than the previous ones. But maybe that album is better than this one. So, but anyway, I'm in the middle, 5 and 6. This is number 5 as of this listen. But yeah, not much as far as memorable songs, and the mix is pretty bad, which brings it down quite a bit, especially in the vocal area. So number 5, C+. What did you think of No Cross, No Crown?
Yeah, totally agree.
Okay.
I like the music on here.
Yeah.
I think there's some awesome riffs. Like you could tell that Pepper's back. Like there's so many good riffs here. This is awesome. But like you said, it sticks out like a sore thumb. He's put way back, like in the back of the mix, and it's very noticeable. Definitely, because I've only seen them twice live. I've seen them once open for Metallica in 96, 97 for Load, and then I seen them this year, not for any album, just playing a 35, 40-minute set. Just the vocals are not good anymore. The guy's almost 60 years old. I think he's 58, 59. So, he's given it his best, but he can't do those higher vocal range stuff that he did for those awesome albums early on. So it's going to be different. He's probably feeling a little less confident about it. So they put him in the back of the mix, and it suffers because of that. But
was it mixed that way live too?
Yeah.
Or was it still out there? It just didn't sound as good, or was it kind of brought back?
It was brought back in the mix. Now that I think about it, for sure. So
makes sense. Makes total sense.
I put some awesome riffs here.
Yeah.
I like the Luddite, Little Man, like you said, awesome riff. Forgive me. Old Disaster, ELM, Queen
Did
cover.
They play any of these?
Maybe the Luddite. I think they might have played. I think that's the only song they played off of this. They played like one song off of all of Pepper's albums.
Cool.
So
that's a good way to do it.
It was a cool mix of stuff. Like I think they played.
Sometimes you're probably left with, I wish I would have played this one instead of this one. But yeah, still, that's cool that they covered the whole catalog with him. Though that's a good idea to do it. I
totally agree. I mean, that's the way to do it. I mean, he's not. They're not going to play the punk stuff with him, probably.
Well, no, but I meant like I could see him also doing like 2 or 3 off of Wise Blood and 2 off of Deliverance, and then 1 off of a couple of the other ones. But it's kind of cool that they spread it out, though. I kind of like that.
Yep. But yeah, I enjoyed it. It was a good show. I really liked seeing them these days. They're still up there doing it. Obviously, it's just Pepper and Woody at this point. But they're still killing it as far as the guitar sounded awesome. That's what I listen to Corrosion of Conformity for is their guitars.
And both of those guys are still there.
Yeah. Exactly.
And still able to play guitar. It doesn't matter how old they get for that, right? So
yeah, and Pepper and his mean mugs. I mean, have you ever seen a guy that looks so angry all the time?
He's and like surprised, like
I know
he's almost bug-eyed, but he's always got to scowl and bug eyes. Definitely has a look to him, and he doesn't look like anybody else. You see him, and you're like, okay, that's Pepper Keenan. Ain't nobody looks like that guy,
right? And Pepper is his real name too, from what I could see.
Really?
That's what his.
I always wanted to say. I thought it was like James Pepper Keenan or something like that, but I don't even know.
Pepper J. Keenan.
Pepper J. Maybe it's Pepper James.
Pepper James.
I swear there was a James in there somewhere, but yeah, maybe not. Yeah, it says Pepper Keenan, born age 58, May 8th, 1967.
Pretty wild.
Nice.
Anyway, yeah, good stuff. I was mentioning the Queen cover, pretty cool. I
didn't mind that one. That was pretty good.
I do like that, the couple covers that they've done. I like that they make it their own. Pretty cool stuff.
It was one of the few kind of fleshed out sounding songs on the album too. Like he didn't. Pepper Juan. There you go. Thank you, Brian S. for Pepper Juan.
Pepper Juan.
We go to this Mexican place and they wear these T-shirts, and on the back of their T-shirts, now they're all Mexican, so I can say this. It's not me, saying bad things, but all of them on the back of their shirts it says "Want tacos? Call 911."
Oh boy.
Oh yeah, it's pretty funny, but it's funny as hell what they're wearing them. I'm like, I wouldn't buy it and wear it around. I'd get stuff thrown at me or shot at me, but need tacos? Call 911.
Nice.
More pepper, sir.
More pepper, sir. All
right. So now we'll go to overall. Sorry.
Oh wait, let me give.
Oh yeah, you didn't rank this one. My bad.
It's okay. This is number 6 and C+.
Okie dokie. So basically, well, no, never mind. So you have this one switched with, but you don't because you have volume dealer much higher.
Yep. I do.
Okay, so I'll go through my 10.
Okay.
Number 10, Eye for an Eye. Number 9, Animosity. Number 8, Corrosion of Conformity. Number 7, album number 9. Number 6, America's Volume Dealer. Number 5, No Cross, No Crown. Number 4, In the Arms of God. Number 3, Blind. Number 2, Deliverance. Number 1, Wise Blood.
All
How
right.
about you?
That's a decent ranking. I give you a
Yeah.
B+.
You're going to upgrade my ranking with your ranking?
You're at a B+, so I'm going to get it up to an A-.
Oh, all right. Fair.
Number 10, Eye for an Eye. Number 9, Animosity. Number 8, Self-Titled. Number 7, 9. Number 6, No Cross, No Crown. Number 5, In the Arms of God. Number 4, Blind. Number 3, America's Volume Dealer. Number 2, Wise Blood. And number 1, Deliverance is my 10 through 1. And that's Corrosion of Conformity.
Yep, Pepperwan.
Pepperwani.
All right. Well,
did we decide who we're doing? You know who we're doing next week.
Corrosion
You mentioned, but I don't know that we.
I did, and I'm almost halfway through them already, so we better do them now.
Oh,
although it could just be pre-work for another date, but we are going to have to probably fit in another, or we changed the dates on our schedule. But since I originally had us doing of Deep Purple, so because there's 22 albums, that's we can't do that all in one show. Everybody'd be sleeping by the time it was over. So
I'd be sleeping.
You'd be sleeping by the time it was over. I'd be talking to myself over here.
Yep.
But maybe we'd both be sleeping by the time that was over.
Maybe.
But we decided to chop that down to 14 albums because Richie Blackmore left Deep Purple for good in 1993. And we felt like looking at those, there's definitely some decent songs in there in those 8 other albums, but they don't really sound like Deep Purple anymore at that point, and then really kind of they might not have by the time 1993 came around either. But without Richie Blackmore in the band, and they kind of were losing relevance then, and like now, can anybody tell me the last most recent year that Deep Purple put out an album? Probably not. So it was 2024. So
yeah,
I don't really feel like they're that relevant a band now, although they still have 4 million monthly listeners on Spotify. But I guarantee you that 98% of that is the first 10 albums or 8 albums that they put out. So, and even then, maybe albums like 4 through 8, honestly, or 4 through 9. So that's where their greatness is. So we chopped it down to 14. We could fit it into one episode. And we are going to do that next week because we just had a week off last week with Herd's vacation, and we didn't want to take another week off. So we chopped it to 14, and we're going to do it next week.
Yep. Sounds like a plan. We'll be ready.
So we're going to come up with a plan, maybe something else for D to fill in the week after that, or possibly just move on and then do it. There's obviously letters of the alphabet that we have so many bands to do. We can definitely fill in another date with another letter somewhere, but we'll look at D and, maybe do, I don't know, Devil Driver or something else. We did brainstorm a little bit and came up with like 5, 6, 7 possibilities in there. So definitely stuff that we can fit in if we feel like we need to. So, but we'll worry about that after Deep Purple. So right now we're going to do Deep Purple next week.
Yep, we'll do that one, and we'll go from there. So, everybody, thanks for listening. If you're out
Brian.
there, thanks, Brian S., for always hanging out with us. We appreciate it. Anybody else, please please subscribe, please leave a comment. Let us know how you would rank the Corrosion of Conformity.
Call us clowns. Call us other names. Come up with something. I mean, it's fantastic. Just listen and agree or disagree. That's the fun of it, right? That's the whole idea. That's why we're here. So.
Yes.
We don't always agree either. Like, he's completely wrong about America's Volume Dealer, and I'm completely right about, whatever else.
Sure. Absolutely.
I'm completely wrong. He's completely right. Maybe I'm the clown.
Maybe
the smile painted face here.
Yep.
So,
oh boy.
Yeah, please listen, comment, call us names, whatever.
Thank you again. Thanks everybody for listening. And once again, the TwoBobsCast. We will see you in the next one.
You're a dummy. Rock on,
Rock
dummy.
on, you dummy.
Looks like you've been missing a lot of work lately.
I wouldn't say I've been missing it, Bob.
What would you say you do here?
God damn it. Bob, we love playing here tonight. My brother's ready.
It helps if you think of it as a game, Bob. Every game has a winner and a loser.
You must possess strength to inflict pain, Bob.